Hi everybody, it's Valeriy, your local realtor and friend. I'm here with a former and current client plus sister, Anastasia Slisenko. Thanks for taking the time in your busy day and opening up your beautiful home for us to be able to sit down and chat. And just as a disclaimer, I'm running on fumes, slept very bad yesterday, so if I yawn occasionally, nothing to do with the subject matter, just a little bit tired, sorry about that.
Thanks for the heads up.
But I really wanted to chat with you. I was looking forward to this conversation because I know that you've gone through a pretty big process, and there's a lot of insight that you can share for other potential buyers of land that hopefully it will be helpful to them.
Absolutely, yeah, great to be here.
Sweet, sweet. So to start off, we originally moved to Washington State and lived there for quite a while. And then we moved here to the Carolinas in 2004, and I believe you moved a year later.
3 months later.
Oh, 3 months later. Wow, okay. 3 months later. And I guess that would be a good starting point because a lot of my clients, they're not just local. I have people that move here from all over the country and even other countries. So moving from Washington State and the culture, the geography, the terrain to the South, it was a little bit of a culture shock. And I was just wanted to see what your experience was, what your thoughts were when you moved here from Washington to North Carolina. Just lay it all out, good, bad, ugly, and what your thoughts are
Well, our
about that.
real estate experience starting from 2004 is, yes, we were out-of-towners. And at that time, we had our first child, a baby, so I couldn't come here physically myself. So what we ended up was looking for a local realtor, Nadia Bolt. I don't know if you remember her.
Yeah, and that was before I got licensed.
Yes, you were still a teenager back then.
But Nadia did a great job. She did a great
Nadia
job.
Bolt, we talked to her on the phone. I never met her face to face, but I liked the sound of her, and we just trusted her. We told her, find us a good home to move a new family into.
It helps that she has the same name as mom.
Yes, that helped. So it was, all the work was completely done by her. We didn't do any, back then the technology wasn't as it is today, so we couldn't do walkthroughs on video. We couldn't do any of the sophisticated things that you can do now for your out-of-towner guests. So it was literally blind trust.
Wow. Did she give you any pictures at all, or was it like her
No.
description?
No, we just gave her our budget.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And what she ended up doing was finding a home, in her opinion, that was good for the area on Charter Place. I don't know, do you remember
Oh, yeah,
that
I remember
spot?
that one. Off Thermal?
Yes. Now, looking back, it was an amazing spot. It's so close to Charlotte. It's like a 20-minute drive to uptown. But being an out-of-towner, I was not happy because I didn't know why the location was so nice. Plus, I was very young. I didn't understand a lot of the real estate dynamics.
Yeah.
The reason I wasn't happy was because in our budget, she found us the closest thing she could to Charlotte. So it was an older home, 1962 home. And I grew up in a new home because in Washington State, Valeriy and Nadia built a new home. That's where I grew up. So I was used to the big expanses, the new windows, the hardwood flooring. And here we are, moved into a 1962 little home. In the winter it was brutal because the heating, I guess, wasn't up to par. So all we did was we ended up just flipping it.
Yeah.
We lived there, remodeled it, sold it a year later. But looking back, I do regret that decision.
Yeah.
We should have kept it, rented it out, but we were very young, didn't know any better.
Yeah, I'm with you too. My first house, we sold it, and I'm like, man, I should have kept it. So I think that's a common refrain that you'll hear, so don't feel too bad about it.
Yeah, but from being out of town, it was a great first buy.
Yeah.
We just immediately flipped it.
Oh, it's a great location. It's
Yeah,
actually next to Lansdowne, which, not to put salt on the wound, but it's like one of the hottest, highest price per square foot areas right now.
No, but and back then in 2004, Charlotte has completely, the face of Charlotte has completely been remodeled in the past 20 years.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So in 2004, that area on Thermal, it was still kind of far from town, so I didn't really see the benefit.
Yeah, it was far from family, it was
Yeah.
still up and coming, and you can't really predict these things. So, yeah.
But now, knowing where Charlotte is now, it's like literally a walk to uptown, so I could see why Nadia chose that house.
Yeah.
But so I think it's important to have a realtor that you like, but I think for your clients now that are out of town, all the technology that you have is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Like the virtual walkthroughs, they're my favorite. Sometimes I just go on YouTube and just do my own
Yeah.
virtual walkthroughs
Yeah,
of
those
just
are
random
fun.
homes. It's so fun, but as a buyer,
Weird. No, I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
and as a realtor, you could walk through and show every nook and cranny and crevice of a home. So
Yeah.
that. After we flipped that home, we built a home. So our brother Max built us our first home in Charlotte.
I remember that.
Also a great area.
Yep.
We also sold it.
Yeah.
Also, I regret that.
Oh, man.
We were just so young, and coming from the Soviet Union, we were refugees here from the Soviet communists.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why we were granted refugee status was because of the religious persecution that our family was subjected to in the Soviet Union. And part of that persecution is knowledge suppression. So we did not have access to knowledge, information.
Yeah.
So when we moved here, we were like naive newbies. And so we didn't have the education that I do now.
Yeah.
That now tells me that it wasn't a wise decision to sell. We should have just rented instead.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, I think it was before the whole craze of like real estate, building wealth, and all that. And like you said, the knowledge was not available back then. Didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So obviously, third time's a charm. Not going to be
Yes,
selling any more houses.
So as we were living on that second house, I started really yearning for acreage because in that house, it was kind of like in an HOA development. So what that means is, and my husband really likes cars, trucks, just
As
like
do
a
a lot of
typical
the,
Slavic.
yeah, Slavic and old country
And
people.
he'd have 3 cars lined up in our driveway, and then part of the tire was on the grass. So the next day, we got these nasty letters in the mail.
Wow.
And it was just back and forth process like that.
Yeah.
So at that point, I realized that we probably don't fit in an HOA, and we need acreage. And that's when I started looking. So it was about 2010 is when I
Okay.
started looking.
So before we get into that, and I did want to hear that, just staying a little bit on your transition here from Washington to the Carolinas, I guess just some final thoughts on, do you remember anything that stood out for you as far as like the differences, whether it be climate, types of people,
Oh, yeah.
pace of
Absolutely.
life? Like what should people expect that move here from other parts of the country?
Washington State is a lot drier.
Yeah.
So even as you land in Charlotte, it feels like you have particles of water just jump at you when you walk
I
out into the
remember
airport.
the first time I got off the airplane, I was like, is
The
this
humidity,
a joke?
yeah.
Like I couldn't believe it.
It does feel a bit tropical after Washington.
Yeah.
But our bodies obviously have adjusted now, so it doesn't feel tropical anymore. But for any newcomers, especially from the northern states, definitely the humidity is different.
That is a good point. And I do remember when we moved here for a year and then went back to Washington to visit, I think our bodies acclimated to the subtropical
Yeah.
climate. And we were in Washington, everybody over there was in t-shirts. I was wearing a sweater and shivering.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how that plays
Yeah,
out. So
and
there's
the body
definitely-
does adjust. That's so
Yeah,
awesome about
yeah.
our bodies.
So that's one thing that people should anticipate.
Yeah, and nature, completely different.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
A lot of pine trees in Washington State, a lot of just dry land. Here, it's literally like living in a park. Anywhere you go, there's greenery. Large trees, grass is always green. It's not yellow like it does
Yeah.
in Spokane. And in Washington, we actually lived in Seattle as well. For part of the year, you have a little bit of green grass, and then it's all yellow.
Yeah.
So, but here around the year, it's all green. It's so beautiful. and
Yeah, that's one
lush.
thing that also stood out for people that visited. Just like, wow, there's so many trees, so
Yeah.
many leaves, and like so many bugs.
Yeah.
Like the bugs get bigger, and I guess another facet of the subtropical climate. And also one thing, I guess this is every person's different, but the noises of nature, like in the spring, summertime, like the frogs, I always get this word wrong. Is it chickadees or cicadas?
Circadians or circadians?
Not circadian rhythm. Cicadas.
Cicadas.
Well, we're all wrong here. I think it's cicadas, whatever. Anyways, there's this like noise that's constant, and
I thought it was electrical buzzing at first.
yeah, I love it. I think
I
it's
do
so
too.
beautiful. I bask in it. But recently, I had a client from California move here. He was going nuts. He hated it. I'm like, dude, you're in the wrong place. It's not going anywhere. This
Yeah.
noise is here. But I think he just needs to get used to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
You
that's
do
another
adjust
thing
it.
that's different
Yeah.
living in the Carolinas versus other
Yeah,
areas.
the climate, the nature, the bugs for sure, the snakes,
Oh, yeah.
especially if you live out in the forest areas.
Although I will say, as far as snakes, yes, there are snakes here. There's black garden snakes. The most dangerous one is the copperhead. And sometimes people run across those, but I've been doing real estate since '06, so 19 years now. Yes, 19 years. Running through all sorts of forests, lands, everything. And I kind of never really even think about it or pay it no mind, and nothing's happened. So,
Well, maybe
God's
they're not
protecting me.
dangerous, but to a lot of people, just
Yeah.
even the sight of them is dangerous.
Oh yeah, don't get me
Like,
wrong. I
the
saw one
adrenaline
once
spikes
on
up,
the
yeah.
street. Those things are like they're icky. You know, not everybody loves snakes, so
Yeah.
that's definitely something different.
Yeah.
But they're not like everywhere. It's not like Indiana Jones. You know.
Yeah,
Okay.
and sunshine. That's one of my favorite things about living here is sunshine, especially after Seattle.
Yeah.
It's literally sunny here 11 months out of 12.
Yeah, and just to add to that, one other thing that is unique that I loved, that I only saw one time in the 13 years we lived in Washington, and that one time it happened because there was like some weird tornado. But here you have these amazing T-storms
Oh, yes.
and clouds and like beautiful skies that are just this tapestry of colors that you don't
Yeah.
really see.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons to every place, and I guess what would be some cons about living here versus other areas? Or are there
In
not
terms
any?
of from nature
Well, just in
perspective?
general, from living on another coast in another part of the country versus here, are there
I
any negatives
honestly
or no?
don't see any cons.
Okay.
We're on the
Nice.
East Coast. This is like the hub of the country. You're, a short flight to New York, a short drive to the beach, a short drive to Florida.
Yep.
Most of the economy's here.
Yep.
Like if you look at the population density, the East Coast is where it's at.
Yeah.
So a lot of historical sites. So you can do a lot of day trips with your kids.
Yeah.
On north, east, southwest.
I'm glad you mentioned
Yeah.
that. In fact, North Carolina, I think, was the first to write up a constitution even before America did, or the 13 colonies. They're like one of the first to colonize, and we're still a baby country compared to like Europe and other stuff. But as far as historicity, North Carolina is one of the places that
Yeah.
has some of the oldest places.
Yeah, and I love history.
Yeah,
I studied
lots of
history, so
historical
this
spots.
this area is so rich in history. Plus the nature, plus the economy. Like it's still affordable to live here, and definitely was in 2004.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't see any cons living here. I'm just surprised people still live over there
Yeah,
on the West
that's
Coast.
that's a great answer. And
Yeah.
and yeah, the economy here is booming.
Yeah.
It's set to keep going up. Obviously, prices are way different than in '04, but compared to some of the bigger cities across the country, still affordable. But that might change in the next 5 to 6 years just because we are seeing a boom. And I believe part of that is there's a lot of companies that have headquarters here. And the Charlotte airport is a surprising fact, but they're considered the economic engine of North Carolina. Even though we used to be considered a medium-sized city, we're a little bigger now. But even back then, Charlotte was one of the top 10 airports in the world for flights.
Oh,
the
really?
amount
I
yeah, I
didn't
was
know
surprised
that.
myself. So a lot of companies look at that, a bunch of flights internationally, domestically, and that's a big reason why a lot of
Yeah.
companies move here. Plus family-friendly, weather, price, lifestyle, like so many reasons.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's like the intersection of so many things.
so
I
overall,
honestly don't.
you guys are happy with...
Very. And I am sad that we spent so much time in Washington.
Hey, one thing, I know it's your interview, but one negative for me is the mountains. I mean, we have Asheville 2 hours away, Snowshoe
no
5
mountains,
hours.
yeah.
But it doesn't compare to what we're used to, Rockies, Cascades.
Spokane Mountain, yeah.
Yeah, but you can't have everything, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We have stuff here and that they don't, so it's a, give and take. All right, well, that's good about the area. And going back to after you, started wanting more land, I remember this because there was a dream that was hatched, Solo Estates. Our parents, we've been blessed with awesome parents that raised us to also get along with each other. And like we're always spending time together, and now our kids are growing up together, which is fantastic. I love that, and I want to encourage and support that. And to that, I guess in that respect, the dream was created to create a Solo Estates where we have land for our parents, and then right nearby, close by or right next door, land for each one of the kids.
Yeah.
So we started that search, and I guess tell me a little bit of like what was the reason. I know you kind of started mentioning it, just
Yeah.
HOA, you want
Yeah,
more
yeah,
land, like,
absolutely. Mom and Dad are so awesome. They are so
yeah.
great. And I'm just so thankful every day that
Yeah.
we're in their family. But yeah, they were our support system and are our support system for all of us, I think. And so we were spending so much time at their home every night, every day. All the cousins were playing our children. So we thought it would be so wonderful to build like a community together. So that way we don't have to be in their home, but we can live close to each other.
Водичку? Иди у Филиппа спроси.
Нет, я хочу...
Сейчас, one second. Давай, у меня вот есть водичка. На,
A
иди
cute
туда, возьми.
interlude.
Huh?
A cute interlude.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Иди, закрывай дверь.
Это новый?
Это новый. Иди в комнате жди, я скоро тут уже все. Sorry about that.
Well,
All right.
perfectly understandable.
So you were saying we spent time with the family, cousins growing up.
Yeah, and I didn't think it would be fair, it wasn't fair, like the abuse on Mom and Dad's house, because we were there all the time. So I thought
Yeah.
it would be much better if we could live in closer proximity, walking distance from each other. And at the same time, I wanted to move away from the HOA. So that's kind of where the idea was born, to buy a lot of acreage together, divide it if possible, and build together.
Yeah.
So that was around 2010 is when we originally had that
Oh, wow.
thought. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that early on. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's when we started talking about it. But at that time, we were all just life building, getting
Yeah.
married, establishing careers. So it wasn't like right there available for us. So we
Yeah.
just kind of sat with it. And then in around 2012, when Paulina was born, I clearly remember this. Because for 3 years after she was born, I'd strap her in the car seat and we'd go driving looking for land. I'd have you print out the MLS, the
Yeah.
little sheets.
I remember that. You were the recon agent.
Yeah, yeah. All the acreage in the area, 20, 30 minutes within the area, I'd like print out 5 sheets, and every evening we would venture out.
Wow.
Every day venture out. I drove so many miles, you wouldn't believe.
No, I remember you were like doing a lot of the legwork.
Yeah.
Which made my job easier, but
But
also.
like
yeah.
it felt like such a strong dream. I didn't even feel like work, even though
Yeah.
it was hard on Paulina to be strapped in the car seat in the back. But to me, it was just like so strong
Yeah.
that we kept doing it.
Man, well, I'm glad that you kept that dream alive and kept putting in the work to keep it going, because
I was very motivated.
well, and that's good, because it wasn't a smooth path.
No.
Not only was it kind of a years-long process, but there was a few false starts. I believe we actually even had a few other properties that we were under contract for that didn't work out for various reasons.
Yeah.
One of them, it was over 10 acres. I forgot exactly.
15, I think.
Yeah, 15 acres, and for people that don't know, that moved to the Carolinas, if there's no city sewer, you have to get a septic. And here in the Carolinas, there's certain areas that have a lot of clay, and if the clay is too much and it doesn't let water go through quick enough, then the septic won't be approved, or you might have to get like an engineered expensive septic. So usually the county can find a septic, but sometimes if they can't, they refer you to a soil scientist who is more specialized, he has more options, and is better at making it work. And those guys usually are the ones that will find something to work if the county can't. But occasionally, very rarely, but this does happen, I've seen it a few times, a handful of times in my 19 years, a huge piece of land, 10, 15, 20 acres even, and there's no good soils on it at all. And that's what happened with one of the properties we were under contract for. We got under contract, that's it, we were excited, everybody's already envisioning, and then we went forward, had the soil tested, and it was just completely negative, and we had to back out, lost a little bit of money, the deposits, and starting from scratch.
Yeah.
So there was some discouragement along the way. And there's also another property, I don't know if you remember or not, there's like a little white house on the hill.
With the
And-
barn?
Yeah, that huge
Yeah,
barn
yeah,
on the way to Zakhar's
Yeah,
house.
yep. We
That-
took a picture there.
We took a picture
And I
there.
posted it to Facebook.
And I remember you posted it, and then you wrote something along the lines of, "The Solo estate has begun." And I remember warning you, I'm like, "Stacy, I love your enthusiasm, but let's wait, just because things could go." And I forgot what happened there, but that one didn't work out either. So it wasn't like a smooth process.
A lot of moving pieces.
Yeah. But in the end, everything's meant to happen for a reason. And then eventually we stumbled across this beautiful land. Can you tell
Yeah.
me how you
Well,
encountered it?
summarizing the whole process, it was very, because we've never done this before, it was very, scary, stressful. Every second you're second guessing yourself. Is this the right thing to do? Now looking back, it seems much easier. But if you're trying to develop land from scratch and you don't know, like, you've never done it before, even if you read about it and theoretical works, it just, walking the walk is harder.
Yeah.
How we found this current property that is the Solo estate is across the street there's a horse farm, and I booked that horse farm for Paulina's 4th birthday. And as I was driving to that horse farm to celebrate, I saw this garage in front of the property, and it caught my eye because knowing that Paul loves cars so much, like I just knew if he saw that garage and he could move in there, that would be like his dream, like a shop, garage shop.
Yeah.
So I looked at it very longingly. And I'm like, oh, it'd be so nice. And I looked because it was for sale. And I went home and looked at the price. It was almost $1 million. I'm like, not feasible right now.
Yeah.
And just moved on. But like a couple weeks later, this land that we're currently on came up for sale. And I was doing those drive-bys at that time. So like I instantly knew, this is it. This is the area.
Yeah.
The price point was a little high, so I didn't know if we could pull it off. Plus, there's so many decision makers because which siblings are going to be in, which siblings are going to be out. Plus, we didn't even know if the land was divisible, and like you said, was septic available. So there was just so much uncertain moving parts. But in my heart, I knew it. I knew this is it. We have to go for it, no matter what.
Yeah, I remember when we first, after you found the land, and then we went out there and we were walking a lot, and just as we got deeper into the land and up higher on this little crest of a hill that's here, we just all knew, like, wow, this has to be it.
Yeah, it felt so natural, like so calm, so good.
Yeah, and ultimately, we were able to get that property under contract. We were able to close, but there's a whole lot of steps that happen in between. And
you were a realtor, which I think, had you developed land before or not?
No, I pretended I knew what I was doing, but I kind of learned.
You were very
here.
confident because
Yeah, I don't know what got into me there, but I was like, all right, we got to make it happen.
No, but your confidence is what kind of gave us confidence to go in financially.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that.
Fake it till you
I'm
make
glad
it.
you guys, couldn't read my thoughts there. No, I felt confident about it. By that time, already had been doing real estate like 8-9 years, so I'm kind of joking as far as like, but
rural land development,
but
I think,
rural
is a certain,
land development and making sure that the 12 acres that we have, chopping it up into the most efficient way while taking into account where the good soils are, taking into account where the best spots for the houses are, and how many kids there are, like trying to do everything we can while also meeting all the zoning requirements from town of Fairview, Union County. It was a lot of stuff.
Very
and
complex.
A lot of different pieces, yes. But fortunately, we were able to figure it all out. We were able to subdivide it successfully.
You were able to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And initially, we just got 4 lots out of it, but then we were able to squeeze a 5th one out. I'm very proud of that one. That shouldn't have happened, but we made it happen. Anyways, but like you said, it wasn't enough for all the siblings, so there are a couple that are nearby but not right next door. But in the end, we have our parents, and then we have 4 other lots that 4 of us will all settle on, which you've already been one of the first to settle.
Yeah.
Что ли? Сынок, еще 5 минут, и мы пойдем, okay?
But maybe they can sit right here, no?
Okay, yeah, they can sit.
Guys, sit right
And
here.
we can wrap this up in like 5
But you
minutes.
have to stay quiet, okay?
Давай, садись.
Okay, but you have to sit quietly, okay, sweetie?
Садись, Лек, только
Me
тихонечко.
and Larry are talking.
Tихонечко. Well, Stacy, it's getting late. The kids are antsy, and we can start to wrap this up. I guess I just wanted to kind of hear your. Ooh, you okay, buddy? All right. I guess I wanted to hear your story a little bit because it is an inspirational story. Besides you, I've had one other family that did what our family did, where the parents got some land and then the siblings got land nearby. But it's not because there's lack of people that want to do it. There's a lot.
Папа, смотри.
Вижу. Лерик, тихонечко, не отвлекай. There's a lot of people that would love this kind of situation. And I know it's more than just finding the right land and making it work. There's also family dynamics that come
Yes,
into
you
play.
have to get along.
Yeah, and thanks to our parents and them trying to raise us right, I think that helps for us to be able to get along in that regard. But I do appreciate you sharing your story and hopefully offering some inspiration to other people that are looking to do the same, that are looking to move. And I guess before we finish, I want to see if you had any final parting thoughts or any words of advice, words of wisdom for other people that are trying to do something similar.
Well, I do want to thank you for everything you did, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Well, thank you. I
Probably
appreciate
still be
that.
dreaming,
Appreciate
because there
that.
was so much uncertainty and fear along the way.
Thank you,
У
Stacy.
тебя есть еще один эпизод?
Будет, тихонечко.
But in terms of advice for clients, definitely you have to find a realtor that you get along with and like, so you could at any moment call and talk, because if you're not really liking your realtor and you're hesitant to call them, little things might be missed.
Yeah.
So definitely
Okay.
find a realtor that you like and one that knows the area. Because
Yeah.
like you said, soil is different, topography is different, building codes are different, county to county, rules and zoning is different. And you definitely need somebody with experience locally
Yeah.
to not lose any money. Otherwise, you'll be just doing a merry-go-round
Yeah.
with an unexperienced realtor, which
Awesome.
I obviously think you are. So
Well, I think that's excellent advice. And one other thing I want to say, you have been also an inspiration and a success in all the things that you've accomplished with your medical profession. And you're the most educated in our family, but also extremely knowledgeable and wise about just health overall. So I wanted to see if you wanted to maybe plug yourself a little bit, because you do offer certain, traveling medicinal services.
I'm moving towards starting my own practice, concierge medicine. I don't know if you've heard of the concept, but a lot of people are not happy with our healthcare system
Oh, yeah.
now.
Oh, yeah.
So concierge medicine is the future of medicine, and
Yeah.
I am looking toward starting that practice, hopefully within the next 6 months to a year.
Okay.
So when I do start that, then I'll come on your show and plug myself as well.
Nice.
But in
So-
terms of, the health, I just naturally, it's my natural gift. I've been thinking
Yeah.
about health since I was a little girl. So,
Yeah.
and it was natural for me to go into the healthcare field. So I
Yeah.
think that's where maybe my wisdom about it comes from, is because there's a lot of innate knowledge that I was
Yeah.
born with. About
Yeah, you
it.
have that natural inclination towards
Yeah.
that, and you can see that it shows that you're passionate
Yeah.
about it. And so if anybody is looking to get some concierge medicinal services in the next 6 to 12 months from a very experienced, beautiful doctor, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, Stacy, thank you again for the time.
Thanks for having me, Larry. This
and,
is fun.
Yeah, letting us be here. So.
I'll come again.
Sweet. All righty.